improvement. We have two very experienced ISEC alumni who will be speaking to us. And I'm very excited because they were in ISEC quite some time before I was. However, they have graciously agreed to be here to share with us their experience. And the main topic we're talking about today, ladies and gentlemen, is resilience. So without taking too much of our time, I'm going to be introducing Mrs. Titilayo Akisanya to introduce herself, tell us about her ISEC experience, and then go straight into the presentation. Please keep your questions till 25 minutes, and then we'll have the Q&A session once she's done. Thank you very much. Ma'am, you have the floor.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. And whilst I'm doing this, I'm saving time by switching into my presentation. My name is Titilayo Akisanya. I've got 12 years experience in banking, both in Nigeria and with Exim Bank in Washington, D.C., and 27 years experience in HR, having worked across continents. And my HR work experiences with multinationals with Accenture, with Philips Consulting, Accenture, and the Coca-Cola Company until I started my own practice in 2011. So 12 years experience in banking, 27 years experience in HR. I joined University of Ibadan, the premier university, the best university in Nigeria. I joined University of Ibadan in 1977, and it was in my part 2 that I joined ISEC. And for 2 years, I held the position of National Secretary. ISEC in Nigeria started in UI, then it came on to University of Lagos and University of Ife. So that's all I'll say for now, because I believe the posters had my bio, my proper detailed profile, so you can read that later. Now, resilience is a topic I've been shouting from the mountaintop since last year, since COVID hit us. And as an HR professional, it's now one of those competencies that we look for when we're interviewing, when we're looking at talent management and development. Now, I won't go through all the slides, but I know Bunmi will share the slides with you, because I truly believe rather than go to a psychologist, psychotherapy, psychoanalyst, counselor, or whatever, all you need is resilience. So the topic is resilience, a competency for growth. And my first question to us is, whenever you wear your face mask, what word comes to mind? Do you think of gratitude? Lord, I thank you I'm alive. Or do you think of inconvenience? Oh, this mask again. I hope it's about gratitude rather than inconvenience, because I don't know about you, I have lost so many loved ones. I've lost colleagues, but again, we just needed to bounce back and bounce on. So talking about resilience, right? Years ago when I was with Accenture, I learned about this acronym, VUCA. It comes from the military. It says volatility, V is volatility, U is uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. I learned this in the year 2000. And if we're talking about VUCA then and still talking about VUCA now, it means VUCA has come to stay. And how do you see VUCA around us? Business models have changed, business strategies have changed. People have lost jobs, but they're now entrepreneurs, solopreneurs. I mean, it was last year I heard of solopreneurs, believe it or not. Thank God for COVID. I never heard of solopreneurs, you know. People doing all sorts of fantastic things. Young people like you and me. Yes, I'm young. And then revenue patterns have changed. Cryptocurrencies. I think it was last month, Bunmi, you took up through your on our talks. We talked about understanding cryptocurrencies, and different stakeholders drive the thing, drive the groove. I love this quotation from Winston Churchill. It says, "Never let a good crisis go to waste." And that brings us to the root cause of resilience. Never let a good crisis go to waste. So was COVID a good crisis? Yes. Didn't you lose didn't you lose loved ones, and didn't I lose? Yes, I did. So why am I saying it was a good, COVID was a good crisis? It was because, first of all, you needed to define what was going on. And secondly, our coping mechanisms were flying in and out. I remember there was a day I attended 2 physical funerals and 1 virtual funeral. So making 3 funerals the same day. That same day in the evening, I then attended a naming ceremony and I had to laugh for the first time. Imagine 3 funerals and then a naming ceremony. And I said to myself, God, you are wonderful. Look at the circle of life. 3 people dead, 1 person is coming to this earth, and we're doing a naming ceremony. That's the managing aspect. And it's like, what am I learning from this, right? So trying times are not, don't define, sorry. My finger moved too quickly. Times aren't defined by the nature of the adversity, but by how we respond. So let me define competency for you as an HR person. Competency is something you need to be able to do well in a specific job role. It's a set of demonstrable characteristics and skills or behaviors that will improve your performance or your efficiency in that role. Competencies are not necessarily skills, but they are similar. Skills are learned, while competencies are inherent qualities that individuals possess. Example is collaboration skills. Some people don't have that. And during job interviews and assessments, competencies are used as benchmarks against which assessors can evaluate candidates, right? Now, how do we define resilience? Resilience is a process of adapting well in the face of adversity, trauma, tragedy, threats, or significant sources of stress. It's about bouncing back from difficult experiences. So resiliency causes, so you go through disruptions or change, right? And you bounce back. And we're seeing that all around us. Now, human beings, the way God has created us, we're naturally resilient. Being resilient, however, does not mean that a person does not experience difficulty or distress. It is possible to apply learning from experienced difficulty and distress to become more resilient. So some of the observations when we're resilient is that there's a lot of self-reflection going on, self-observation, self-awareness, and all that, and how you're learning from it. Building resilience, therefore, is a key human skill, and it adds to both your personal effectiveness at work and your entire well-being. So when we experience challenge or adversity, how do we learn from it? What do we learn from it so that we can build our resilience? So people are different and have different perceptions when they're in adversity. For some, it brings them down. For some, they're singing merrily all the way long. So self-awareness is really important. So my question to you, ladies and gentlemen, is with these 2 definitions and what I've said so far, how resilient are you? Do you bend or break in the face of adversity? For you to be here, I want to thank God and rejoice that you are here, because it means despite all that went on in our world and in your world, I know Uzo is in the States. I mean, I saw what happened on January 6th at the Capitol. When I was introducing myself, I said I worked in Exim Bank. I've been in that Capitol many times over because Exim Bank was just a walking distance. I know those corridors very well because I had colleagues who were working there, and I still can't get over that desecration of the Capitol. And days after I saw that, I kept having nightmares, dreams, and it was like, no, 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 Lord, it's not so. But what did I do? I needed to bounce back. How? I went back when I traveled in April. It was like, no, let me go back. Let me trace myself there and just see that place again. And it was like a lot of healing for me. So we go through resilience in the workplace because a lot of transformation, downsizing, right sizing. Some people have lost their job. Some people were asked to go and then they were rehired. Can you imagine? They were rehired as contractors, you know? So disruptions are just going on everywhere. And researchers will tell you that resiliency is widely referred to as the miracle drug of organizational success because it acts as a buffer and it's associated with stronger physical well-being and it promotes stronger relationships and communication. I remember somebody asked me and said, TA, so a lot of people call me TA. He said, oh, help me write a job description for Chief Wellness Officer. I said, which one is that? Chief Wellness Officer. I said, oh, by the way, and we don't want a medical person. We want somebody who knows HR and all that. And I thought, oh, okay, Chief Wellness Officer. That's me, that's HR. We've been wellness officers for so long, but I realized this job description needed to be a medical person an HR person, possibly with a lot of medical experience, who knew how to care, knew a bit about public health, and those things, So we put the job description together. So what are the competencies? Resilient competencies. There's 6. There are more than this, but this 6 captures them. Number 1, self-awareness. And it's simply, who are you? What are your strengths and your weaknesses? Number 2, self-regulation. How do you manage your thoughts, your actions? How do you manage your emotions? Number 3, optimism. Being able to remain realistic and keep hope alive. Now, of course, keeping hope alive, it means you have to have an anchor, a spiritual anchor in terms of your religion and all that. So optimism can draw from your religion as well. Number 4 is strength of character, knowing your top character strengths and believing in those strengths. God has given all of us talents, capabilities, rebound and resound in us. How are we developing those strengths? And then, of course, this new word, which we've also included in our competency dictionary in the last 5 years, agility. But now we're talking about mental agility. That is ability to think flexibly and taking other perspectives and views on adversities, especially in this VUCA world. And then the last but not the least, connection. Connectional intelligence is another competency. It's about how many networks or people do you reach out to? We were having a chat before we started this, and Uzo was talking about the fact that I interviewed him years ago. I mean, when I met him years ago, I didn't remember. Of course, he's made more money, so he's not looking like the young person I interviewed and all that. But ever since then, we've stayed in touch. Connection, how you relate with people at work, outside work, in the office, how you connecting with ISECers that were in your university years ago. And there's a good opportunity because we're celebrating how many years, Bunmi? 80 years this year of ISEC. Is that it?
60.
Oh, sorry, 60 years. Sorry, how could I have said 80? That means I'll be like a Methuselah. Okay, 60 years of ISEC, right? So these resilience competencies are very important. And you can see it develops your muscles. It enables you collaborate with others. It enables you self-regulate in terms of your composure, your emotions. It enables you manage your tenacity, your health, right? And also whilst keeping alive your vision. So how do you develop resilience? Of course, you have to have a vision, have a sense of being in control, and be flexible so that if things don't go your way, you can bounce back, be organized, keep focused, be able to solve your problems, get connected with others. but be socially competent. And this is where we develop our muscles in terms of social media as well, and be proactive. Now, one thing about resilience is we have to reframe our thoughts, move from the prism of negativity to positivity. This, I like the statistics. It shows in an article in 2005, the average person has a maximum of 60,000 thoughts per day. Can you imagine? And 80% of them are negative thoughts. Wow. When I learned this was 2005. Ever since I saw this, I was in a conference in London. I decided, no, I don't want to be part of that statistics of 80%. It's so easy to fall into that statistics. So how do you reframe things that go on with you and around you? It's simple. Instead of saying, I can't do it, drop the negativity. Sorry, this isn't about positive confession. No, 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 no. We're being real here, right? It's looking at your destiny, what your God-given purpose, and rather than saying I can't do this, you say I can do it. And so you're ready to take on challenges at work, you're ready to take on projects. Last year, if you know how many projects I took on, because I had to survive in a COVID year. And they say, TA, we need someone to do this, do that, do that. I'll say, I can't do it. Meanwhile, I would have committed myself before I then say, yay, I don't know what to do. But guess what? I forced myself into that zone of learning and researching about it so that I'll be able to deliver the program, of course, adding in my own spice in terms of my own experiences and who I am. So it's about changing our mindsets, going from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. And having that agility mindset is really about having a growth mindset. Now, if we define agility, it's the ability to respond to changes and new situations with flexibility and adaptability. You're moving quickly and easily. It's the willingness to learn fast and take necessary action rapidly. So we're talking of personal agility, right? Because we all have it, and it helps to contribute to the success, to our success individually and to the success of organization. And you may ask, what requires us to be more agile? All the things we've gone through because of COVID, constant change. I mean, I've been through a lot of changes as a married woman, and my husband used to work in Mobile. We relocated 3 times. I had to leave my job. I worked in Fairfax. I mean, we lived in Fairfax, in Virginia, in Houston, in New York. And yet, how did I survive without letting my career suffer? Cultural differences. I'm sure Uzo, when he's talking about things later, will make reference to some of these things I've put here, right? Competitive marketplace, mergers and acquisitions, colleagues joining or leaving your team, constant change, flux and fury. And when you look at agility again, the one thing that comes to mind is that agility is a frame of mind as much as it is a competency. It's a frame of mind because it requires you to bring a measure of positive attitude to what is going on. And then, of course, your resiliency enables you to be more open to the change around you and learn things and be able to be creative and innovative. Agility in organizations today is the bedrock of creativity and innovation. But looking at this slide, the A for agile is about awareness, right? Being fully present of the situation and even being aware of your own capabilities, and then having that grit. That grit is like the resilient strength, and then the I is about the influence. The L is the learner's mindset, and of course, empathy. So, which one are you? Last year in Nigeria, wow, I saw losers, but losers fast became winners. because the losers became solopreneurs and entrepreneurs. And I saw in between us. I know a good friend, Nika Ogulesi, who makes clothes for children, and she immediately turned her factory to start producing masks, customized masks. And she started even shipping some of those masks abroad. So which one are you? And so my challenge as I get ready to close is understanding these two words, resiliency as a competency and even agility added to it. How ready are you to disrupt yourself? How ready are you to play where no one else is playing? Because amateurs compete, but professionals create. Disrupting yourself is about the whole person going through a change process. How often do you go through a change process? Do you drive through the same route to go to work every day? Or have you tried another route? It's as simple as that. So resilience does not protect us from setbacks. Rather, it ensures we're able to manage our way through them. And in closing, these are resilience factors you must bear in mind. The bedrock is self-awareness, and on top of it is your connectional intelligence. Who are you connecting with? Socially, in the workplace, spiritually. And those resilient factors now come in between. How are you able to self-regulate yourself, self-manage yourself? How well do you practice self-efficacy, self-care? Oh, I love to look after myself. These days, because we're now going back to doing things physically and I haven't exercised, when I'm presenting, I stand on my feet the whole day. Now, this time, the other day I finished presenting. I stopped at Hans and Renee. I bought 3 scoops of ice cream, 3 scoops. I enjoyed myself. And then I felt the sugar was so much. So before I slept, I took green tea, oolong tea, so that it will wash down the sugar. But guess what? I enjoyed my 3 scoops. So that's my own self-care, right? Acceptance is one thing. Accepting the situation, accepting the reality, and asking yourself, what can I do with this? You've heard it said, if they throw you lemons, make lemonades out of them. What meaning and purpose are you bringing out of whatever situation you are in so that you can come up with the best solutions? So these resilience factors are very important. And I just put here this self-reflection activity. You can take a screenshot of it, but these slides will be made available where you're saying things to yourself. I actively look after myself. I talk to others and seek their support. I manage strong triggers and keep in balance. I have supportive people around me. I move away from naysayers. I work on myself. Once I get a feedback, I work on myself. I know how to improvise. I know my purpose because I'm always going back to God, to say, are you sending me here? I accept the reality in much the same way as I accept the defeat or the challenge, and I bounce back. And I always say I'm building the bridge to my better future because I know I'm going somewhere. God is taking me somewhere. And so, ladies and gentlemen, that ends my presentation. Sorry I rushed through this, but these are quotations. This one by Peter Drucker, I learned through Isaac in those days. When I say those days, that was 1979 when I attended the first International Isaac Conference as National Secretary of Nigeria. This was in Chicago. And I learned this quotation by Peter Drucker. It says, the only thing we know about the future is that it will be different. And if I learned it in 1979 and it still rings true, the future will be different because we're in a VUCA world. It's about volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity. And so that's why you need to be resilient. So if you always do what you've always done, and you will always get what you always got. In other words, try new ways, try new things. And of course, I love Maya Angelou's quotes as well. All right. And there are over 7 billion people on earth, and you're not going to let one person ruin your day. Or will you? My challenge to you is don't. So if you don't want anybody to listen to ruin your day, if plan A fails, are you coming up with plan B? I like this quote that says, if plan A didn't work, the alphabet has 24 more letters. So look for plan B. If plan B didn't work, look for plan C. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I can testify and say, if you throw me to the wolves, I will return leading the pack. And I know what I'm saying because I just went through a national election. I was vice president of CIPM. I didn't win as president, but hey, guess what? People are still calling me to say, how are you feeling? I say, feeling about what? I've moved on. Oh, I'm waiting for my next assignment, right? That is the spirit of resiliency in action. Thank you very much for this time given me. But like I said, the slides will be shared. All right. So, Bunmi, will this be a good time? I hope I didn't rush too much.
So, ma'am, you actually kept within time, and we really appreciate that.
Okay.
We don't have any raised hands right now, but I have a question. Concerning resiliency and the fact that it's assumed that we as a people we don't need help, we're always able to overcome. Is this really true? The issue that we're mentally strong, we can overcome anything. Because right now I've been hearing of some friends having depression and all that. How does resiliency play in this kind of situation where somebody ends up having the pressure? Is it that the person is not resilient? Is it that the person does not have what it takes? You understand? It's just something that has bogged my mind, because somehow I am not able to balance out depression. It's strange to me, but people are having it. So how does resiliency come into play when we talk about people having depression, especially in the light of what we've just experienced, the COVID?
Okay, so depression is natural. We're human beings. The way God created us, we're bound to be depressed. But the challenge is, don't let the depression get hold on you. Don't let the depression become a stronghold, right, over you. I gave you an example earlier in my presentation. In one day, I attended 2 physical funerals and then 1 online funeral. And then in the evening, because this was happening, the naming ceremony was happening in the States. In the evening, Lagos time, we attended a naming ceremony. So all throughout the day, I was depressed, and rightly so. But by the time we were attending the naming ceremony of a new innocent child born into this crooked and perverse world, what happened? I moved from depression to joy, because we had to give the baby a name, and more so a name that was resounding or prophetic. So I switched almost immediately, right? Now, people go into depression when they stay there for too long. And when anything hits us, let's cry out, let's look for help. I remember I was coaching. Oh, by the way, I'm also an executive coach. And I was going through a CEO who was telling me all sorts of woes, and all that. We were going through a coaching session and he said this word, actually, I think I'm getting into depression. And I said, oh, really interesting. So if you're really going into depression, what do you feel like doing right now? And he said, what did I say? I said, what do you feel like doing right now? Because as a coach, we put power in the hands of the coachee. And he said, you know what? I actually feel like crying. This is the whole CEO, right? It was a Zoom call. I said, you feel like crying, so please, I give you permission to cry. And he was shocked. But I was shocked because it was like the floodgates opened, and he was not just crying, he was weeping, he was sobbing, and I was just looking at him like this. You know, after a while, I shut off my video because I didn't want him to see my blank face or whatever. But after a while, he shut off his own video, and then I put on my video, and then he put on his own. He says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I've embarrassed myself, but I feel better." I said, "Oh, are you still feeling depressed?" He says, I said, "On a scale of 1 to 10, how depressed were you before? And how depressed are you now?" And he said before it was 9 out of 10. Now it's 5 out of 10. So what do you want to do about it now? And he came up with actions. So being able to connect with others is really about the key for getting us out of depression. And part of being able to connect with others from some of the competencies I said is part of resiliency. Thank you. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you very much. Yes, you have. Yes, you have. I have Dorian. Dorian, you just want to ask your question, please?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much for this brilliant presentation, Ms. Titilayo. I really appreciate it. And I already seen I didn't waste my time connecting to this meeting today. And I'm also in a human resources field, and I must say this is very a plus in my domain also. And I shall definitely connect with you for more information about HR. Thank you very much. My question is that I'm living in India, and the truth is that life here is definitely not good. I must confess that we when we wake up, we have to rush outside before 10 a.m. in the morning and get whatever we want to get. And you are always at home. You have to come back home, or otherwise you have to justify why you are outside there and everything. And we are all afraid of this COVID-19, even though the vaccine is around. And this has been like this for like a year now. And I won't talk about depression. What I want to talk about is how to show resilience in this kind of situation when you can only wake up from your bed, like open your eyes, you can't go outside for any social life or anything at all.
Okay, all right.
You only come to your laptop, do your job, you are done with your job, you are in your house, you are done with your job, you close your laptop, you go back to bed or you eat. How to show resilience in this kind of situation? Like it's quite difficult.
Number one, eat well. Eat well. Many of us ate well during COVID because we were indoors. We put on weight, but now we're losing it, right? Okay, eat well. Number two, use that laptop so well. I downloaded a lot of videos on Netflix during COVID, a lot of music, a lot of sermons, a lot of programs. I remember there was a time I was giving out free links for certificate courses from Ivy League universities last year. Courses you would have paid $3,000 for that you always wanted to have time to do and you didn't have time. They were free. I was posting the links from MIT, from all these Ivy Leagues from all over the world. And it's like, okay, this is your good time. You're not going anywhere, but thank God you have your laptop. How are you using your time? Right? You're restricted, all right, you, yourself, your laptop, your apartment. How are you connecting with members of the family? Last year, we were creative. We were having monthly meetings with our siblings all over the world. My siblings, I haven't seen some for 3 years, but we only speak on the phone or WhatsApp. But now with Zoom, we were seeing each other. Monthly meetings, weekly meetings with my children scattered all over the world, and things like that. Those things came alive because of COVID. They've always been there, but we didn't take advantage of it. I've been working virtually since the year 2000, since I joined Accenture in 2000. I've been working virtually, but I took it as part of my job. When I was in Coca-Cola, HR director for Africa, I was in Atlanta, but yet I was overseeing offices in Swaziland, in Morocco, in Egypt. So I've been working virtually for a long time, but So COVID didn't hit me in a strange way because I've always used technology. And so it played to my advantage, right? So what can you let play to your advantage because of COVID? I gave you simple examples. I mean, music, Netflix, watching movies, downloading movies and watching them in the comfort. But the good thing that I enjoyed was just connecting with different members of the family, friends, seeking out friends on Facebook, on LinkedIn. I was forced to know how to use LinkedIn by force. Or I wish, in fact, I gave myself a target that I'll have 5,000 followers. But after a while, it was too much. So I needed to slow down. So those are just some of the necessary tips. And I kept saying to myself, no, this one too shall pass. This one too shall pass. And indeed it will. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. I guess for now, that's all the question we're going to have. Please stay tuned because she'll still be giving us a rounding up word at the end of the session. So right now, I'm going to move now to our second speaker, who is in person of Uzo Nwagwu. He's joining us all the way from the US, speaking to us as well about resilience as a team leader and as an immigrant in another country. So Uzo, the floor is yours. Could you just let us know you better, your ISEC experience, and then we go straight into the conversation of.
Okay, sure. No, thank you very much, Bunmi. And I hope you can hear me loud and clear. All right, great. So again, first of all, thanks for the opportunity to be able to share and speak. I'm hoping the fact that this will be as interactive a session as possible. A little bit about myself. So Uzo Nwagwu, let me speak a little bit more about my ISEC experience. So I actually joined ISEC in my second year of university in Unilag. I was caused by a couple of good people who are actually very active alumni now, you know, Brenda, Flo Duru, Kemi Kazim, and a couple of other individuals to actually join ISEC, and I did, right? And it turned out to be an awesome experience. Became Vice President Marketing for ISEC Lagos, joined the national team in 1998 as MC Vice President for Projects, and then became National President of MCP in 1999. Been probably one of the best experiences I've actually ever had, because it actually gives you at a very young age a chance to be able to run, manage, learn, and lead at the same time. After that, and as on the couple on the back of what Auntie Titi said, I actually had my first interview experience with her and Francis Osuya for a job at Phillips Consulting, which, by the way, I did not get. But I think it actually taught me resilience, because one of the things that she did, and I'm not sure she remembers, was the fact that we had this catch-up session afterwards where she kind of like broke down why I did not get selected for the job. And I think that made sure the fact that my spirit didn't get broken. And I took all that learning, which was actually great, because it actually provided me a little bit of a humility shot right there. And I moved on to actually join PricewaterhouseCoopers, and that's where my career kind of like kicked off on the back of that. So a lot of my experience is pretty much kind of like noted on the bio that was shared with everyone. So I'm not going to spend too much time on that. Dorian, one point I just want to make, right, on the question that you had asked before, if you don't mind, right, on kind of like how you deal with resilience, because I do have a very global team that I support and I work with right now. And many people, especially those in India, my heart goes out to the folks who are actually dealing with COVID more so on a very personal level. How those teams are also coping, because one of the things I try to do is to connect with my team at least once a week, each individual personally, right? Because a number of the bigger challenge in India is beyond just COVID, the fact that you don't actually have enough vaccines. So there are people who their families are actually dying and they just don't even know what to also do about it. So it even goes beyond work. Your colleague might actually be well, but their families are actually going through a lot of pain. So that provides a lot of pressure. Things I try and tell them to do is, connect, of course, more so from a faith standpoint, right? So I've got a colleague of mine who every time we connect together, he tells me to pray with him. And it's actually been a very humbling experience for me, being able to join and just do that. The other thing, as well as Auntie said, is yes, eat well. I also say try if you can to make that a balanced diet. Sleep well as well, right? A lot of us are actually dealing with lack of sleep, which just kind of like completely exacerbates the situation. Make sure the fact that you're getting enough sleep, and make sure the fact that you take a chance to be able to exercise, even in your little home, right? You know, whether it's cardio, whether it's whatever, just a little bit of exercise just helps to kind of like keep that mental structure going on. And then set a schedule. So whatever schedule that you have, I've been working remotely since February 28th, 2020, right? And for that entire period, while in my house, I just maintained the schedule. So even though I'm working from home, I get up in the morning, I exercise a little bit. I probably exercise a lot less now than I used to before, but exercise a little bit, eat right, make sure I have my bath, and dress up as if I'm going to work, right? Because with that, it just kind of like just mentally helps you shift from one point to the other, okay? But let me now, so taking from that, let me share what I wanted to also do during my session really was to kind of like speak about my experiences here and how my role has helped me form, grow, and build a resilient team. So in 2017, two companies came together, Baker Hughes and GE Oil and Gas. It was a big merger, huge for the industry in itself. And prior to this time, I'd actually done a number of roles, mostly in Africa. I'd been country lead, led finance, run operations for the region itself. And I was very comfortable in Nigeria. It was real good. I was loving and enjoying myself. Again, I was close to family too, right? So which kind of like made life easy. And as folks will say, look, regardless of all the challenges in Nigeria, Nigeria just has a beauty to it that you cannot replicate anywhere else, right? Forget whatever they tell you about being abroad. Nigeria is where it's at. But irrespective of all that, I think somebody just felt I was getting too comfortable. And I was voluntold to take on this VP role, managing global real estate for the company. The company coming together had over 1,300 properties around the world, from manufacturing, light industrial, and offices. And I'd done a mixture of roles, but I really hadn't done anything in real estate, right? So I was thrown into what I'll call the deep end, right? And I was actually asked to move to Houston. So I had to get my wife and my kids kind of wrapped around the idea of leaving the comforts and the pleasures of being around their cousins and family, and then moving down to Houston. So moving to Houston, and I'll say, look, one of the things that you learn very quickly is the fact that in Nigeria, you've got a lot of people, you've got a support system around you. Being in the US, you don't, right? So I'll confess the fact that for the first time in many years, I actually had to iron my shirt again, right? I hadn't even had a chance of kind of like doing laundry in a long time. So that for me was all very new experiences itself, which you kind of wrap your head around. Driving yourself to work through traffic and all of that was all new experiences. But you had to recalibrate. And I think just being an immigrant, coming from a place where things get thrown at you all the time, you are able to just kind of like recalibrate and just shift and say, well, this is my new reality, and this is what I also have to run with. So now bringing those two teams together, so I had a team of about 23 people, direct reports to me, and I had an overall organization of about 100 individuals. Now, remember the fact that by the two companies coming together, you had individuals who were from one company and another. So you had to make some real tough decisions around who do you most keep, because there's some synergies that you have to build out of that. So I got to Houston, and the first thing I did was I had a team call, right, with a whole bunch of individuals who didn't know who the hell I was. They couldn't even pronounce my last name, right? So got them together on a call, and of course, in their minds, they're kind of like wondering, who is this guy? We typically have vice presidents of real estate who've got 20, 30, 40 years of experience, and this individual is coming in with what? Yes, we know he has sales, finance, commercial, as well as operational experience, but really, what is he going to do more so in this space? And what I told the team was two things. Number one, I told them, assume positive intent. I do not know a lot, and I'm going to learn from all of you. But the one thing I can assure you is the fact that I am going to make mistakes, right? That is one thing I'm going to guarantee you. I'm going to make mistakes, but I'm going to own up to those mistakes. I'm going to take accountability for it, and we're going to work to also fix it. And the other thing I also promised the team is the fact that I will not delay in taking a decision. So I'll take a decision. It may be the wrong one, but trust me, I'll take a decision. So I asked the team for a month, for 1 month, to be able to set the organization right. I had a meeting with a couple of consultants, sat down in a room, and Titi and a couple of folks on this call would know how consultants roll, right? So they are throwing to you every sort of like spreadsheet, every sort of like different organizational strategies. And what I did was I took all the submissions that were done by the consultants who had actually been prior engaged before I actually took on the role. And I spent a Saturday into Sunday looking through that. And I told myself, Uzo, you must choose an organization definition and org structure that drives simplification, that drives clarity of purpose, that drives clarity between who is responsible, who is accountable, who does what, so that people can also stay their lane. I watch football a lot. I'm not going to talk about a team I support because that's going to create a whole different kind of wahala. But I'll say the one thing, though, the fact that every team has individuals playing different roles, right? You've got your strikers, you've got your individuals playing midfield, but everybody needs to know their roles. And if the team doesn't understand clearly their roles, then things must fall apart. So we set up a strategy, and I then had a call with everyone and literally laid it out to the team that folks will have to re-interview for their jobs, right? And of course, that created a fair amount of stress. It did create a whole bunch of anxiety. So the one thing I always say, though, is if there's a nugget I'll leave, is always make sure the fact that you help your team through change. Communicate, right? And while driving that communication, it might be in a group. So I did have the group session, but I called people individually as well, just to make sure the fact that you help to calm the nerves. But you make sure the fact that that period of anxiety or lack of clarity is as short as possible. And that's why I told them to give me a month. So I had the team also interview for their jobs. Some folks did not quite like the action of interviewing for their jobs, but they all went through it. And after that, we got individuals settled in their roles. The reason why I had people also re-interview was the fact that I had to set individuals into different, what I call pillars, or into different functions, right? Again, to be able to drive that. So you had a lot of people who played very generalist roles. And you are now moving them, okay, to who is going to be the right striker, who is going to be the midfielder, who is going to play defense, and who is the right goalie, right? So we put individuals into those boxes, and just being very intentional about it and providing that communication definitely helped. Then we moved to the next stage, which was more so around workload. The one thing, though, that the organization was set for is every time they got thrown out with stuff, there was always more to do, right? Than actually enough hours in the day. So I asked everybody to fly into Houston, and I told my direct manager at the time, I said, look, I must get the team together. I'm literally creating everything from scratch. So we got everybody together. Thank God we did not have COVID at the time. So it was easy to kind of like get everybody together. And that face-to-face meeting definitely helped. It helped for a number of reasons. Number one, it helped to strengthen the social connection between the team, right? It's always great for individuals to actually realize that there's a little bit more, people spend more time with their colleagues at work than they do spend with their loved ones at home. So strengthening the social connections in your team is always a great way to be able to build resilience in the team. You know, so again, a rhetorical question I'll throw out is for those of you who work in teams or who lead organizations, I'll ask, when last did you have a social event, right? And folks will probably say, well, how can you have a social event in a COVID era? I'll say, well, to be honest with you, in a COVID era is when you actually need a social event, but it could actually be a virtual social event. So one of the things I've actually infused, and I do with my team, so I meet with my team once every 2 weeks, right? I have a short 30-minute call once every 2 weeks. And I'll kind of like talk about when do you get to a point by which you actually do have too many meetings, because that actually could become a challenge or a deterrent in itself, right? So I have a meeting with my team, and part of that meeting that I have with my team, I always infuse a piece of it, which is kind of like a team member spotlight, right? So for about 4 minutes, somebody comes in and talk about something that also interests them. The last time I had Nicole on my team, two meetings ago, I had Nicole on my team come in and speak about how herself and her husband are learning how to do the samba, right? Okay, and samba, salsa, and all of that, right? And for me, I kind of thought, wow, that's actually great. My wife, Ijoma, has actually been asking for us to do that for a long time. So who knows? Maybe that's something that we might go off to go do at some point in time. But this lady dedicates time to actually doing this. In fact, one of the things she mentioned was the fact that at 6 o'clock on Tuesdays and Thursdays, they always have a lesson. What I actually took away from that meeting was noting to myself, Tuesdays and Thursdays from 6 o'clock, please do not call Nicole, regardless of whatever that is going on, because that for her is a ritual that we need to make sure that she keeps to be able to balance her sanity, right? So you get to learn something new about folks. There was another person on my team last week, John, who spoke about the fact that when his grandmother passed, he learned how to also plant her flowers, which was good because I could relate to that. Many of you don't know this, but look, my mother was, beyond just being a teacher, was a horticulturist. When I was in University of Lagos, part of what I used to do on certain mornings was to go deliver flowers to UAC and places like that, right? You wear your dungarees in the morning, 5 o'clock, go with the Kombi bus, deliver flowers, get back to the mainland, shower, and then head into campus, right? You know, the agony was real, right? So, and that kind of like just helped to build that street hustle in oneself. So building that social connection within the team was always very, very important. But as well as bringing the team together, we were able to set very clear priorities. Clear priorities is important. Making sure the fact that the team is actually clear about what is most important. Because in many of our organizations, we do a lot of work that is very redundant, right? Low value add, right? But it's just busy work. How can we take that out of the process? How can we literally decouple that, simplify the process, figure out exactly what a clear result, so that your team is clear about what should they be focused on. When you take away all the redundant work that just takes up so much time, then people actually have time for the things that actually truly matter. And sometimes the things that truly matter now enables them to be able to now have time for their families, which of course helps as well to build resilience in itself. And the other thing, again, I always also bring up is ensure the fact that within your teams, you're actually allowing them to have ownership, right? I'll say one standard characteristics of most ISECers is the fact that we tend to be type A personalities, right? Okay. And type A personalities always want to take charge of everything, want to do everything. We want to be responsible for everything. We want to drive and solve every problem. If I'm going to leave you with one message, please don't do that, right? You're not that important, right? I know that will come to a shock to many people, but one of the things I've learned, and I'll say COVID more so taught me that because I lost some personal friends during COVID. I realized the fact that I'm not as important as I think I am because the companies move on, whether you're there or you're not there. You probably think, hey, the most important person I've got to be here every day, 7/24. To be honest with you, if you think about me with my last name, Nwagwu, what company do you think is actually going to name a conference room after me? It's very unlikely, right? And the reality about it is the fact that, and for the HR folks who are around, they'll bring individuals together, they'll have a moment of silence, they'll ask people, hey, you know what, if something, if you've got any pain, please call the employee assistant program or whatever, but people move on, right? The organization moves on beyond you. So you need to recognize the fact that you are not that important. So for that reason, you need to enable your team start taking ownership of certain things. Most type A personalities, however, try to solve all the problems because they don't want to fail. And that's why I say the fact that sometimes failure is good, right? As long as people fail fast, as long as they're taking the appropriate amount of risk. So when your team takes on ownership, when they fail, don't bash them, right? It will be difficult. I'll tell you this from my personal experience. It'll be difficult sometimes not to kind of like chastise the individual, but recognize the fact that it's the same way as training the person. I've got 4 kids, right? My youngest kid is the boss of the house, right? And to be honest to you, he's going to turn 4 in August, and he has helped me learn the fact that I can't take my job very seriously. I was pitching out to the executive leadership team, which is literally the company's most senior executives. and I was on a call with them, live call, just like the one we're having. My son comes up to me, and I didn't have my microphone muted because I was speaking, and he came to me and said, "Daddy, I want to poop." Right? He said, "Daddy," and I'm like, "Hey, guy, just calm down." I'm tapping him, right? Because no one can see him. And he pulls me again and says, "Daddy, I want to poop." Then there was radio silence, right? So I just said, I called out to our CFO and I said, "I'm sorry, but I really need to take about 3 to 5 minutes to take care of a major problem here, you know." And he said, "Yeah, you better take care of that problem, because if you don't take care of that problem, we're going to have a world war going on or something." So we all laughed about it. And I went off to go and take care of this 3-year-old's, you know, poop problem, right? His poop problem was more important for those few minutes. And as I sat down there waiting for him to finish up, wiping him up and, you know, help him take care of his business and get him all ready and set, I realized the fact that that was more important than anything else, right? It helped me kind of like reset. And having some of those moments to kind of like reset is definitely very important, right? The other thing about problem solving or enabling your team, encouraging problem solving in your team, is the fact that I also say one of the things I've learned is to be open to new ideas. Because the reality is the fact that with your team, with your global team, whether it's a global team, whether it's a small team, or whatever it is, whether even irrespective of like age differences, you're not the smartest person, right? There are individuals who may be new into your organization. The intern in your team could actually be the one who would challenge the status quo. So you need to enable people, be open to kind of like speaking up on what could we do differently, right? What do you think? That's always a question I kind of like pose to my team. What do you think? Now, when you say that, you as a leader need to be open to accepting the answers that you get, right? You can't say, "What do you think?" And then when people kind of like speak up about what they think, you shut it down. So you need to be open about that, right? And driving employee involvement, of course, drives that creativity, right, in itself, which is definitely helpful. The other thing I would say is, and companies differ, right? So I'm always very, I try not to assume that every company has this opportunity, but some companies actually do have learning opportunities, right, that are laid out. Some individuals, when they move to a company, they assume the fact that they're actually going to go off to that company to pick up something new. The challenge, though, I always balance out is make sure the fact that you as a manager are actually providing the right learning opportunities to your team as well, right? Otherwise, without that, you know, it's one thing saying that you guys actually help people more so learn. The rest, the other thing is you actually provide those opportunities. And the last piece I'll say is flexibility. Flexibility is very key, right? One thing COVID has made us realize the fact that the office is no longer the bedrock and end all of everything. People can work effectively and efficiently from home. If you have a diverse team, have the emotional intelligence to allow your team to be able to operate, be able to drive the optionality of where they want to choose to work. If you've got someone who's got young children, give them the option to be able to work from home, because we all know the fact that childcare is not constant. Your nanny can quit on you tomorrow, right? And enable people to be able to do that. Enable people to be able to execute, as long as they've got clear terms, clear objectives, and if the role can support that, optionality is definitely key. So in that, just wrapping up, I'll just say there are a couple of things, right? I just want to leave to the team more so as nuggets. Resilience is an attitude. I'm still learning it. It's continuous, right? Don't sweat the small stuff. Assume positive intent. Fail fast. Allow the team to fail fast, learn, and innovate. Don't take yourself too seriously. Recognize that your team coming to work is a choice. As you as a manager have a choice to kind of like lead your team. Your team tomorrow can decide, you know what, this person is not good enough as a manager, and they will choose to also leave. So celebrate your team, celebrate the wins they have. Many managers get so caught up with the work, they forget to actually say thank you. Thank your team often. Thank them for actually lifting, because right now, life is so stressful to everybody. So folks actually waking up and showing up at work, we should be grateful for that, especially if you've got good talent. So be thankful to them, communicate, and over-communicate, and be vulnerable.
Wow. That was a whole lot of experience cramped into a very short time. And trying to build a team, especially when you're an immigrant and coming into a new space, I'm sure you had to put up a lot of resilience. But I would like to ask, before I let Dorian ask, I'll just take the advantage. Did you experience where your team members did not cooperate with you despite all your efforts to put them together? Did you have any such experience?
Yes. Right. So there were some of that, right? Now, everybody's not going to buy it on day one, right? So if I came to you and told you, hey, you know what, I shared this lovely speech and everybody just like Maximus in Gladiator and everybody just kind of like aligned to it, it didn't happen, right? There were individuals, there were the naysayers, right? And I'll tell you the fact that the most difficult kind of naysayer is the one who doesn't speak out, but the one who pretty much just kind of like works in the background and is waiting for you to trip up. So that's why I came through to the team anticipating that. That's why I said the fact that you had to come in and let the team know, I'm going to make mistakes and that's okay. I'll take ownership for it, right? But making sure the fact that you're engaging. And the other thing I also did though was, and I'll say this as well, because it helped. When I took on this job or when I was volunteered to take on this job, I went to Amazon and I ordered every book I could find on real estate. And I read it cover to cover, right? Because I had to make sure the fact that when I stepped into this job, I was at least dangerous enough to be able to make certain calls, right? But the balancing that you have to do around that is make sure the fact that you still remain vulnerable and open about it, right? Okay, about the fact that you don't know. Reach out to the team and say, hey, I see you're very good on capital projects. Teach me what you know. That is so empowering. And many people don't get that from their managers, right? So when you do that, they're like, wow, this guy is humble, or whatever it is, right? But as you learn from them, and then when they see the value that you bring, because the perspective of the reason why I was put in the role I was put in, as I realized that over time, was the company didn't want someone who had 30 years experience in real estate. They wanted someone who actually understood the intersection between the business strategy, understood our commercial efficiency, understood how it could drive cost optimization, made sure the fact that our return on investment was actually strong, while at the same time ensuring the fact that the workplace experience was there. As the team saw you transcend from the little things they do to more so connecting it to the company's overall strategy, folks just came on board for the most part. There were some individuals, of course, I had to make a tough call of letting go, because at the end of the day, just like any other football team, every now and then you've got to sell a player.
Thank you. So
I'm sorry, Bunmi, I can't hear you. Are you speaking?
I think Bunmi froze for a few minutes.
Okay.
Bunmi, are you there?
can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Yes, I appreciate the fact that you had to go the extra mile, be vulnerable. It wasn't pulling when they weren't pulling their weight. So in a nutshell, what is your advice on resilience? As you know, most of us here are probably leaders or leaders and in the making. As a leader of a team in team building, what last word would you leave with us to take on in terms of resilience in team building?
I'll say that the highest leverage, right, on team resilience is tackling the workload issue, right? Most of our teams actually have that big challenge, right? Clarity on priority, clarity on results, and clarity on ownership. Once you're able to provide that, I mean, it all, for you to be able to do that, then everything else I've said kind of like comes into that mix as well. But once you're able to do that, it actually helps to drive for the employee the what is in it for them. As long as you're making life easier for your team, then they would pretty much, loyalty is earned, right? Loyalty is not, you don't just come in with your role and just get it. You've got to earn it. And once the team sees the fact that you're doing things to actually make their work-life balance easier, then you're on a success path. And remaining constant, of course.
Okay, thank you very much. Dorian, okay.
Yeah, thank you very much. No, it's not a big deal. Thank you very much, Uzo, for this fantastic presentation. I love when I'm attending presentation and it's based on personal experience. And it gives me the feeling that everything is possible, and if it can happen to someone else, it can definitely happen to me. My question is about, as Bunmi just mentioned, leading. I'm actually also leading the ASIC Alumni Medicine Africa Marketing and Communication Department from here. See, it like opposite reality, you know. I have to stay awake like 3 a.m. in the morning to be able to attend a meeting that we all agreed together. Like, I'm trying to be very strict and really open about this situation, which is bothering me a lot. I have a team of like 14 person, I guess. And we agree, most of them are in West Africa. You know, we are running West Africa time, and we agree on West Africa convenient time for all of them. And I have to sacrifice my time to stay awake till 3 a.m. in the morning here to attend this meeting that we plan bi-weekly, okay? And with this, the turn up during the meeting is like 10% all the time. I've tried several times, several techniques, approach, one-to-one talk, everything, but I didn't see it work. I don't know if the thing is I should change the meeting time, or how can I lead this team again? And we have a lot of things we need to achieve. We have a lot of ideas we need to develop and everything. And time is ticking, you know, and it bothered me a lot. And I don't know if you guys, I can see, I don't know if this is about resilience or I don't know, change of mindset, or I don't know. Anyway, if you guys, you have any idea about this, please, I will be glad to hear it briefly. Thank you.
Look, so first of all, I really want to thank you, Dorian, for being vulnerable and being willing to kind of like share that, right? Because that is definitely a strength in itself. Working with global teams is always very tough. The time zone issue is tough in itself, right? So I'll tell you something that I do, that I try to kind of like accommodate everybody. If it's an emergency, and what I mean by that is there's a crisis, right? Where if we don't address it, it might lead to either a health challenge or whatever, then I may get on a call at 5 a.m. in the morning or 4 a.m. in the morning. But the reality about it, though, is the fact that most calls that we get onto late in the night, honestly speaking, can be taken care of in the morning. But I think it's just a natural thing. We feel, again, back to that A-type personality. We feel if we don't jump on it, then it becomes a problem. So what I'll ask you to do is this, right? And this is just my suggestion, is be vulnerable with your team and choose a time that more so makes sense. I've got a team that is in West Africa, and I also have a team that is in India. For that reason, my team call, and I'm in Houston, right? So we're all kind of like in different parts of the world, and I've got a team in China as well. So our team call actually happens at about 7 a.m. Houston time, which puts it at about, if my guess is correct, about 1 p.m. in Nigeria, which hopefully will put you at a better time set, Dorian, because you're in India, right? And I'm sure the team can accommodate that. I'm sure the team doesn't want you to get burnt out, right? So if you kind of like tell the team, guys, this is not working, it's not working for me, it's just completely exacerbating, let us shift the time. And maybe you guys can choose to do it over a weekend. If that time, if it was on a weekday, and maybe for many of the folks, it doesn't work for them because they're at work. But if you guys don't find a time that most of works for everyone, then over time, it will not be sustainable. And that will just lead to a lot of pressure, stress, which is, again, one of the things we're trying to address by being resilient. Okay? But that's just my take on that.
Thank you very much. I think I learned something.
All right, we're about a few minutes past the hour. We tried very much to keep to time. So I would have one last word from Auntie Titi, who was speaking to us, and then we will end the session with a vote of thanks, which I'll give to everybody here. Auntie Titi, the floor is yours. One last word for everyone.
Okay, please don't make me feel older than I am. I'm only 62 years old. So please stop calling me auntie. Just call me TA. Just call me TA because I still work with a lot of younger people and I thrive amidst young people and my teams have made me succeed. One of the closing remarks I'd like to say is be authentic. Don't try and pretend to be who you are not. Be who you are. Be real. I like what Uzo said when he took up that new role. Look, I'm here to learn from you. Anytime I'm with a new team, anywhere, I mean, I've been working in Ethiopia since 2013. And well, last year I stopped going to Ethiopia because of COVID, but I've started again this year. The first thing I always tell any team anywhere is, I may know something, but I don't know everything. So I'm here to learn from you. Be authentic. Don't try and be who you're not. And many times, even if somebody in the team knows more than me, I always say, that's a new perspective. I've never seen it before. Please teach me. I'm always saying, please teach me. Or I'm always saying, I want to learn. If we can imbibe that attitude, again, I mean, yes, I mean, someone is reminding me the social connections, you know. I love to connect with people a lot, and that is what has enabled me to thrive, even in working with teams that are even more so geographically spread now because of COVID. So be authentic, be real, be yourself. Be the person God created you to be. But that doesn't mean you should be lazy. Aspire to do other things. The second thing I'd like to say is even listening to Uzo, as an HR person, I find that a lot of transferable skills are working for us these days. Transferable skills. Before, skills were linear. Oh, you're not technical, you know, and all that. But now in HR, we're looking for technical people, people who we're bringing in from supply chain to work in HR because we're now looking at logistics and procurement in a different way. It's all about talent management, you know. So these are transferable skills. And rather than fold your hand and be at the effect of your job or what COVID is doing to you, ask yourself, what are those skills that are transferable enough that another team or another department can benefit from so that you'll continue to thrive. Remember, one of my slides, I said, disrupt yourself. Resilience works better when we disrupt ourselves. Disrupting yourself, what does it mean? Change. And part of that change is what Uzo said. Every day, even when I'm good, so twice I work from the office now and 3 times at home. When I'm working from home, I dress up as if I'm going to work. And I don't sit in the same place I sat yesterday when I'm working from home. I have 3 locations with backgrounds and paintings, you know, in the house that I use. Why? It's just about my mindset to help me. I love work. I love being a professional. So when I dress up, it gives me a different mindset. So don't wake up, don't say because you're working from home, you just wake up in your t-shirts and sleep in your t-shirt. So please disrupt yourself. Thank you.
Wow, that is a profound last word. Disrupt yourself and, you know, make things as interesting as possible. Don't stay in one spot because you're working from home. All right, thank you everyone for being here. We're so grateful. I'd like to mention that we have participants from all over Africa, and I can see my Ghanaian people. We have two past alumni presidents here. We have Idris Yakubu and Shola Oyetayo. Thank you for being here. Three actually. Brenda Nwagwu is also on the call. Thank you very much for being here. We hope to see you. Keep it a date with us, same time, fourth Sunday of every month by 5 p.m. Please remember, if you want to speak as an alumni at the alumni talk, or you want to nominate a speaker, you can send us an email with the title AAN Talks Speaker to info@isecalumni.org.ng, and we will take it up from there. I'd like to thank TA, and I'd like to thank Uzo for the time you have spent to share on resilience and building a team, even as an immigrant. I hope we will take these lessons and let it exhibit in our day-to-day lives. With that, I would like to say a very good evening to everyone. Thanks for being here. If you don't mind, yes, we're closed. The meeting is closed, but I would like to just get some of our diaspora people to introduce themselves, because you're welcome to AAN Talks, but we are borderless. ISEC alumni in Nigeria is borderless. I have Dorian, and I'm not sure I've met Kwame. Kwame, would you like to? Okay. Okay, he's not unmuting. Anyway, we have Chihui, Matt. Oh, okay, Kwame, please. And where you joined us from?
Pardon? Yeah, I'm Kwame. I was with ISEC.
We can hear you now.
Yeah, ISEC Ghana for 2 years, 2003 to 2005. I was MCVP. At that time, it was exchange, and then I did external relations also. I'm currently in Canada with my family, but I still follow ISEC alumni both in Ghana and the diaspora, wherever. So, like as
Thank you.
one of our speakers said, the TA said, it's very necessary to make connections. So I still make sure I keep some of those connections going forward. And it's been very helpful because I came here last year, and the job I'm doing currently, I got it through a connection back from Ghana. So it's very important to keep those connections. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kwame. We have Mandy Towaiba. Mandy Towaiba, could you just unmute and just tell us one or two things in 1 second? We're just going to run through our diaspora guests, and then we'll call it a day. Mandy, can you unmute?
Oui, yes. I'm here. Good evening. So I'm Tuaiba. I'm the current in the University from Senegal, and I saw so that's what I just wanted to report now with our alumni.
I think I'm finding it difficult to hear if others can.
Yeah. What?
Her voice is breaking, so maybe we need to move on to someone else. And I think we've lost Bunmi. Bunmi has Bunmi has frozen. So maybe someone else can introduce themselves.
Okay.
I see Kingsley staring at us and making some signs at Uzo. So Kingsley, you can unmute and introduce yourself. Obviously, there must be something in connection between him and Uzo. Kingsley, please unmute.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, Uzo, it is very, very nice. This was very, very educative. And yeah, it's amazing to see you guys again, you know, and I'm happy to join this meeting. You know, what can I say? This is a fantastic experience, you know, and I've learned a lot listening to Uzo, my very good friend. We spent fantastic time together at Isaac Lagos years back in the early 90s. So yes, it's very, very good. Thank you very much. My name is Kingsley Washe. I'm the Group General Manager of Mercedes-Benz Nigeria. And a lot of the experiences that Uzo has explained are the kind of things that I experienced when I came into Nigeria from the United Kingdom. Yes, one has to be resilient, one has to be patient, and you have to be open to a lot of ideas from your team members. It took me 11 years to get to where I am right now, you know, in the organization. And yes, these are very, very good pointers, you know, to follow. Thank you very much, Uzo.
Thanks, Kinsley. Nice seeing you again.
Me too, man. All right.
Okay, Bunmi, are you back? I just took over because I noticed you had frozen
Thank you
up.
very much.
Thanks, Kinsley. Nice seeing you again.
Thank you, Kingsley. Yeah. Friedel.
Okay, Bunmi, are you back?
Thank
Because I
you.
noticed you had frozen up.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Kingsley. Yeah.
Yes. Can you guys hear me? Okay, my name is Friedel. I'm originally from Mozambique. I'm currently the MCP of Isaac and Kever. I'm just finishing up the experience. So it was really nice hearing you guys. Like, it was so inspiring. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. And we have Tekimbi.
Hi everyone, this is taking me Joshua. I was MCP Isaac in Nigeria 2017-2018. Thanks Mr. Uzo for a very insightful space and TA as well. So educative, we've learned so much and I look forward to connecting with everyone else.
Did Bunmi freeze again?
Bunmi.
Thank you very much. I guess we will have to call it a day here. Like I said, we have 3 past presidents on the call, but we're already 25 minutes past the hour. We thank everybody that joined from diaspora, and we thank everybody who is joining from Nigeria. Let us keep it a day.
Thank you. And please, Bunmi, remember to send the presentation to everyone. Thank you, because I noticed some people joined late. Thanks, Uzo. Thanks, Dorian. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Catch up soon. All right, then. Bye. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Have sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Yeah. Isaac, good night.
Thank
Say
you.
Isaac.
Good night.
Bye, everybody.
Hey, what? Oh, man.
Oh, man.
Oh man, oh man. Thank you very much.
Yes, how now?
All right.
Okay, Bunmi.
So, thank you. All right then. Bye. We'll end it now.
Okay, then.
Bye.